So I'm calling for the Historic Review Board, Monday, August 26th, 2019. And we'll have the roll call, please.
All right. I'm just looking for the right sheets of paper. Kenny Anderson.
Here.
Joyce Dalton.
Here.
Kathy Dennis.
Here.
Dwayne Hurt. Gigi McKay-Millie, I'm here. Roger Poitras.
Here.
Billy Green. And Brendan Gallus.
Have everyone had a chance to read their minutes from July 22nd? Are there any corrections that need to be done?
I move the minutes be approved as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same size. Okay. Any correspondence?
We did have correspondence actually.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to organize my list here. There we go.
That'll be the last thing we have done.
Oh, obviously, yeah, we did the last thing. Where did it go? Anyways, we had a correspondence from the city attorney. It came out. Did you get a copy of that?
Did everyone,
That was the only correspondence we had.
did everybody get a copy of that?
Yes. No.
It was emailed to everybody. You didn't get one?
Oh, maybe.
It was,
I don't remember if I got it or I heard it at city council.
well, you could have been both.
Yeah.
I know it was in here earlier, but I don't see it right
And
now.
I did not bring mine, but,
Why don't you just paraphrase what it was?
Paraphrase. Yes. And this is just straight from her. I don't think she, she just went to the state law, but paraphrasing it was, we had written, the Preservation Board had sent a letter to council asking about the globes and the lights, whether or not it needed a certificate of appropriateness. We say it did. The board did. They basically, she took that, went to the state law and said, well, state law says you need approval for any conspicuous changes to buildings, I don't know that she went to Todd or Landmarks and said, where do you get, what's the interpretation of the power? She basically just said, this is the state enabling legislation.
Generic.
And we basically adopted that same legislation. So I think she was just trying to, I think they were trying to get a correspondence back. There may be some other things that Todd or the Landmarks can provide that says this is where that power comes from an interpretation standpoint. Mm-hmm. But she did not have that in front of her, so she basically just was,
Houston, we have a problem.
Yes.
yes, we
do. So that was basically in a paraphrase. That's kind of what it is. There was a lot of state enabling legislation in there.
And it was interesting because I did get it because now I remember reading and one of the things it said was objects. It had the objects in there. And I thought, why aren't street lights objects that would fall under that statute?
Yes.
The question is that how Landmarks interprets, because, I've seen us protect things from trees to, landscaping, things like that, in other ordinances in the state, so I don't know.
And, the sidewalks and all the environment.
So that's something that maybe Landmarks could expand upon of like, here's how that is. Here's where we think it comes from, the power comes from.
And didn't it also say it went to the city council and they agreed with her interpretation?
No, I didn't see that.
No, it did
Or
not
it said something, either that or Don Prespolinski agreed with it. I saw his
No,
name.
Don did not agree with it. Don did call me and he did not agree with it.
Oh, okay.
He felt that if everyone in the historic district needs to contact the office to find out if they need a COA, they should have also. And he felt badly that they did not. And how it all came about was with the bulbs for the helping the electrical bill. And that's how it all started. And that's why the council adopted it, thinking it was okay, without coming to the historic. So I thought that Don or one of the representatives was going to be here tonight, but obviously they're not.
Yeah.
It just kind of it shows an utter disregard that's really, I mean, and that the fact that they continue to fail to show up or truly address it.
Right.
Well, I totally disagree with their interpretation and the letter that she sent to us, because first of all, I do think it was more or less just a generic type form, which, like you say, she went to the law and said this, and this. However, if you read into our book and so forth, it's very likely that lights, I mean, the lights are an object basically that are representative of the historic district, and I don't agree with their decision on it.
Yeah, I've just found it. I'm so sorry. It was in the very back of literally the last
Of
page
course.
of this packet. So it says, I'm just going to read it. Does that sound good?
Sure.
All right. It says to Mayor, Common Council. This is via email. So it's to Mayor, Common Council, Historic Review Board from Amber LePitch Stahlbrink and James B. Meyer. So that's City Council, Attorney, and Corporate Council. Date is August 12th, 2019. Regarding review of a letter from the Historic Board to Mayor and Member City Council and Redevelopment Committee dated July 4th, 2017, which was correctly to July 5th, 2019. Issue: should this MC Common Council have applied for a certificate of appropriateness with the Historic Review Board before changing the streetlight globes in Elson Historic District? The answer: no. Analysis: Chapter 66 of the Michigan City Municipal Code establishes the Historic Preservation Commission, the historic districts within the city, and discusses when certificate of appropriateness are required. Elston Grove is a designated historic district within the city pursuant to Section 62-61, subsection 3, and the boundaries of said historic district are outlined in Section 62-61, subsection 3. Section 62-91 outlines when a certificate of appropriateness is required for work within an historic district and currently reads as follows. Section 62-91 work requiring certificate. Except as provided in 62-67 and 62-97, a certificate of appropriateness must be issued by or on behalf of the commission before a permit is issued for work is began on any of the following. 1. Within all areas of a historic district. A. The demolition of any building. B. The moving of any building. C. A conspicuous change to the exterior appearance of historic buildings by additions, reconstruction, alterations, and maintenance involving exterior color change. Or D. Any new construction of a principal building or accessory building or structure subject to view from a public way. Number 2, within a primary area of the historic district, A, a change in walls and fences or the construction of walls and fences along a public way. B, a conspicuous change in the exterior appearance of non-historic buildings subject to view from the public way by additions, reconstruction, alterations, or maintenance involving exterior color change. Section 62-67 and Section 62-97, which are not relevant to the underlying question posed herein, read as follows. Establishment, Section 62-67, establishment of districts and phases. Which I don't think we have a phased district. I don't know why that's even in here, but I can read it if you want, just so it's in the record.
No.
Okay. Ultimately, ultimately, nowhere in Section 62-91 does it state that a certificate of appropriateness (COA) is required before changing out streetlight globes. Thus, we do not believe MC Common Council. I think when the historic district boundaries of Elson Grove were formed, the local legislation did not outline what was considered a primary area of a historic district. According to IC Code 36711, which is what we adopted, that's basically verbatim, does not give guidance on what a primary area of the historic district would be as it pertains to Elson Grove. Primary area is not defined in the general definition section of IC code. However, IC code 367-11.3 and through 16 defines primary and secondary areas as follows. Common Council requires a C of A before changing out street. Anyways, I think that right there basically summarizes it all. So,
It's just, it doesn't specifically say streetlights, but it can't specifically say every single item, so.
Yeah, so I don't know, where we stand or if landmarks want to weigh in. I think ultimately one of the questions, I know I reviewed this before it went out. One of the questions was, what is a primary area and a secondary area? It doesn't define that. Is a primary area more important than a secondary area? There was discussion about that before this letter was drafted. But ultimately, lots of cities regulate streetlights.
Yeah, they do.
Because it took me 2 years to get them in place in Evansville. I had to go through the historic board. I know they do. So.
Well, that's what was so crazy about this.
So,
To get the approval to put them in and then to do that without.
Well, my question is, they have globe lights on 11th Street.
11th Street. Mm-hmm. Yes, they do. The pedestrian lights. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so why in a non-historic district, they have historic-looking globes that everyone likes really well, apparently? Are they changing those globes?
I don't think so. I think those lights are like the ones downtown. Those are designed. Those were bought after Elston, so those actually are dark sky compliant, if you will, or they're already LEDs. I think in there,
Yeah.
so they're already efficient, if you will. Whatever.
I just think that it's strange that in an actual historic district where they're trying to preserve the look of a historic district and spent a lot of money to do that it's not appropriate to have globes, but it is appropriate to have globes on 11th Street.
Yeah.
It seems like that.
The change that they made has nothing to do with dark skies, because the change they made is not masking the light.
Yeah.
And so that's a non-issue. And the question is, if they change the ballast, why can't they restore the globes?
The globes.
Which is all that it's.
That's really all it's being
all
done.
it's about.
Yeah, I know.
I thought there was some sort of metal piece that came over the light so that the light was shining down and not going up into the sky. Wasn't that also part of?
They've talked about that. I don't know. I have not been involved in any of.
Is there a
globe
possibility that they
discussions.
can alter those lights to put the globes back? I mean, can they?
Yeah.
Can they do that? We would be very happy.
I
if
do
they
not
could
know
do
the
that.
answer to that. Maybe, possibly. I mean, they're the same lights.
Right.
They're just without the globes. It's essentially the same.
So I guess my question is, can we ask the city council if they could refurbish or do what's necessary?
See, and that's what I had asked for, is if we could have a meeting to sit down and talk, just like we're doing right now. And that's what I thought was going to happen. So
I press them about that.
Yeah,
I can probably
I think we
contact.
should.
I do too.
I do. I think we should. I understand what they're saying. I mean, we've adopted those guidelines, and that was very helpful to us, so we know that in the future. However, I do feel in this particular situation that the globes are of importance to that historical look.
Well, they look like something's missing right now.
They do. They look like the globes
I'll
are
let
missing.
Deb.
Pineapple with the inside gone.
Deb may have some insight to how they interpret that state law or that enabling legislation.
Yeah, let me look into that and see,
I'm sure this is just a piece of that legislation. This is not the full
Right.
enabling legislation.
Would it be helpful if Landmarks wrote a letter to the city council and CC'd,
we can do that.
the city council and talked about how other communities interpret the statutes and if there are other parts of the legislation that Amber should have looked at?
Yeah, I mean, that's She's just reading it for, it's
From,
coming. We adopted it verbatim, so.
Well,
Yeah.
I think I think possibly we should go, our first question should be, can we do something about this? Can we alter or do these lights before we get into the advancing into the legalities to a
Yeah.
higher level? That's what I think.
Well, I do too, because to me, to get into that is ridiculous.
Well, it's not going to benefit anybody, really.
Except that these kinds of issues may come up again, and
That's
that
why
we
it needs
should
to be
have,
resolved.
some,
Right.
whether it's
Right.
now or in the
We need to get
future.
it solved
Right.
We,
first time.
we need clarification, and if we need to make some amendments to the current statute or whatever it is, the resolution that
Well, that's.
guides what we do, then I think,
The other thing that's relevant too is that the language of any code or regulation, whether it's written at
Interpretation.
the federal level or any other level, is almost always full of vague language in gray areas that haven't been thought out or were purposely left for interpretation. And many times you really don't know what a law means until there's been some cases that help resolve it and decide what those things are. And I suspect there is something like that, and that Amber may not have looked for those things because that was not in their best interest to do so.
Well, that, and I think that, I don't know that she wasn't trying to do that. I spoke to her about it, and I believe that they were just trying to get, here's what
An
we
answer.
adopted.
Right.
We don't know, there's some issue, there's some vagueness here.
Right, there is.
To work through that. I don't think she was trying to
No.
mislead us or.
So my question.
Well, she's just going to the law, that's all. That's what they do.
Does our involvement with Indiana landmarks, do we have any higher, whatever? Does that override anything?
Probably not, but we could see what kind of precedent's been set in other
We've
areas.
adopted this. I mean, we have this in front of us.
And I know that, all the commissions that we work with have basically the same ordinances, and yet they tweak them to suit their areas. And I think it's Elkhart's that specifically does call out a lot of items in their landscape, like they have brick streets in their district, so they're protected, and, lighting and such. Now, how that happened, I don't know if that's something they were concerned about from the beginning, or if this got tested and it was changed later on.
Right.
I don't know, so I can look into that and see.
Okay.
Could we contact, I mean, I know you're in touch with Don. Could we let him know that we would like to pursue this?
Yes.
And basically.
And Deb and I then will get
Right.
together and compose something to send, so that it's in writing.
Yeah, and then also, our first choice would be to just question and ask if we can redesign these lights or do something where the globes are usable on those lights. And that would stop everything, right,
That would, yeah.
It would help, a lot, I think. Okay, any more questions on that? What we'll do is, when something is composed, we will send it out to everyone so y'all can review it, see if there's something else that we need to add, so that we get as much added in writing before we continue. Agreed? Okay. Sure. And Skylar, I think we have somebody here tonight that should have been introduced.
Yeah, so this is, want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Liliana Rosado. You can call me Lily. I'm the new associate planner for Michigan City. Yeah.
We're very excited to have her.
Glad to be here.
Yeah.
She's very, she fits in good with our department. We're gonna let, I'll be coming a few more times until she's comfortable, but I'm gonna hand you guys off to her in good hands, trust me. She just graduated from college. She has a great background. She has a lot of experience. She's very educated and just super smart, and we're really excited to have her here. So.
Where are you coming from?
Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Where in Pennsylvania?
Bloomsburg.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness. It's a long way to go.
I hope she likes it here.
Yeah.
So far. hard drive, yes.
Yes.
We're very excited to have her. Today's her first day, so go easy. It's been a long day.
Yeah,
A very long day. And I told her she didn't have to stay, but she decided she wanted to meet you guys. So.
Well, appreciate that, appreciate that. Okay, we will start in our C of A. First one on the agenda is 401 Franklin. Is there anyone here?
Good evening, I'm John Burns, the owner of Leeds Public House, 401 Franklin. Thank you for taking the time to review our application, and I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
Ready for the staff review. 401, 403 Franklin, of course, in Franklin Square Local Historic District and National Register District. The rating of the building is notable. It's neoclassical style, built in 1902. And it had many COAs, so I'm not going to bore you with a description of the property because you've heard it more than once. So this is just a continuation of many things they're doing to the property. Wait a second. The description of the project tonight, there's drawings of the proposed art that I think you see there. The art for the outside can be altered slightly. And it says on the initial application, it said the public house art is definitely what we like to do. The other circus picture may change, but would be similar to what's proposed and seen here. Signage at the front door is a blade sign angled off the northeast corner of the building. Now this afternoon while I was driving to Logansport, I was talking to John on the phone. And so we talked about that a little bit and clarified it. So we are actually, for this application, only going to be looking at the mural that will be on the side facing 4th Street, not the circus one. Still, we're just going to do the leads. We're looking at the leads mural and the blade sign. And the other mural will be discussed.
Yeah, we internally decided that wasn't something we wanted to move forward with for aesthetic reasons. And between the time when the application was submitted and when it got to being, we ruled that out. So,
John, to clarify, this Ryan Circus one?
Yes, it was a submitted drawing for us for the purpose of facing the courtyard. And for anyone who's been around there's a lot of area space, surface space on the loud brick in that building. And what the purpose, the intent of that would be for us to put something there that would fit the historical feel of it and to make sure aesthetically it was appropriate. And we just haven't come up with something yet, and what I had offered was to come back and resubmit that final one once we knew what it was. But for the purposes tonight, to expedite things, the razor sign and the sign to the, I guess that would be the south. Yeah, I was getting my Lake Michigan here confused.
North.
The north. See, I don't even, my life
Northwest,
should
the
be
northwest side of the building.
I'm terrible with directions, so I apologize.
That's okay.
You're on the north end. You're almost as far north as you can.
I know, and even now when I look at a map, I still need assistance. Thank you for indulging my ignorance.
No problem.
So staff recommendation is the proposed blade sign is appropriate for the historic district. Traditional painted murals are encouraged. Although there's no evidence of a historic painted sign on this building, the style and the location proposed is appropriate. So staff recommends approval as currently submitted.
Any questions?
I thought you were just saying that the circus sign was omitted, and then the other one that says Leeds Public House,
No,
That's staying.
That
That
one
would be
and the
over
blade
the
sign are staying.
approval.
Is the Michigan City
Right.
staying?
well, I'm sorry, I thought I just heard you to just say, reference the blade sign only. You're just doing
No,
both, so-
but we're doing the blade sign, no, we're doing the blade sign, we're doing the mural on the north side.
Okay.
But not the circus mural that was proposed for the south side.
So the one you are proposing is the Leeds Public House on the north side. Okay.
Right.
And also the blade sign?
Mhm.
Okay, so both two.
Those two things.
So we've got two things. The blade sign, which is gonna be right on the corner. Right on the corner where the buildings,
With the
Washington
north and
Airport.
east
Yeah.
Franklin and Ford,
Right.
right on the corner.
That will be there, and then the lead sign will be on this north, facing the library.
Will the lead sign be the colors presented here or close to it?
No, it would be, I believe, black and white. It's more
Oh.
traditional, a circular razor sign that would stand up. Was there a picture submitted?
No, now he's
There it
talking,
is.
he's talking about the
Oh, the painting that you're looking
Yeah.
at would be facing, again, I'm not going to use direction, I'd rather use landmarks, would be facing the retail, the mall.
Oh, so it'll literally be on facing the alleyway. So
The
you're gonna
alley,
see it
correct.
from
It
the
would face the
alley.
alleyway.
It's on the west elevation.
It's on the new piece
It's
of
on
the
the
building.
elevator.
that he-
On the elevator side,
Okay.
yes, that's correct.
Oh, okay, because
So it's
that's,
the west,
So it's not facing the library.
Right.
It's,
The
it's
west.
facing the west.
Right.
Yeah.
The back side of the building.
No, we have no intention of doing anything to the building facing, the side facing the library. There are too many windows.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think the question was the colors were going to stay as
That's
presented?
as presented, yes.
Okay.
and it says it will illuminate in white at night. Correct.
I don't believe there's white in that draw. Are you back to the razor question?
Yeah,
Razor.
yeah,
Yes, for the purposes of identifying that we're there.
Yeah, it'll glow basically.
It'll glow.
right.
Which is a lot.
I move that we approve the certificate of appropriateness.
And I second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, may I make one under the recommendation to, that you take down all the open flags on the nights that you're closed, because it's very confusing, and I was
Yes,
there banging on the door one night.
Yeah, so we're a little specific. That is a promise, because we've been a little schizophrenic with our open and close. And just for the record, since we're on topic, we're open, we're closed right now Monday, Tuesdays, but eventually we're gonna be open 7 days a week. But I will assure you, we'll take care of that post
I was
haste.
so disappointed.
I apologize, and I hope everybody's had a chance to come say hello.
So you're not going to be open tomorrow for lunch?
Not tomorrow, but by the end of September,
A whole bunch of
we will be
people are
open.
springing.
Oh, I'm so sorry, we're just trying to make sure the staff is, we just keep
Sure.
working on kind of getting everything appropriate and right. So, we thank you for your patience. It's been a journey.
John, we'll have this sign tonight, so you can pick up your permits. You'll see.
Tomorrow, right, we can't have it installed in 2 years. So we'll pick it up then tomorrow, if that's okay. Thank you very much, and if you have any questions, please let us know. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. 515 East 10th Street. Is there anyone here representing 515?
Okay, 515 and 10th, the applicant's Jared Jeffries. It's in the Elston Grove Local Registered Historic District. Its rating is contributing. It's a colonial revival built in 1935. The subject's property is 2 stories tall with side gables. Its foundation and walls are composed of ground bricks. The house has 1/1 metal windows with sills and lintels composed of bricks. The roof is covered with asphalt shingles. The asymmetrical front wall has an off-centered porch stoop. The entry door is a wood door with 3 narrow windows in its upper half. A metal canopy creates a roof for the stoop. A large picture window is east of the door. A group of 3 windows is centered in the front walls. Front wall's first floor's west half. That is quite a sentence. That comes from the state survey. That was not my writing. The second floor's front wall has a window centered in it. Here's a window centered on the lower openings on each side. So the description of the proposed project is to re-roof. The roof is leaking. Something to note on the application, there's boxes that you can check for various projects. And on this particular one, it's not that one. The box for fence was also marked. And that is not mentioned anywhere in the description. There was no information given for that. So I've been back and forth with the owner on this a number of times, as has Sue Downs, and no one has information about that, including the owner. But he confirmed today that he would like to install a fence.
I saw him today too. He said the same thing.
So he's just waiting for information. So something will come, but tonight we cannot look at the fence portion of that. This is strictly a roof. So the staff recommendation, replacing the existing 3-tab asphalt shingles with new 3-tab asphalt shingles is a replacement in kind and can be staff approved. So staff recommends approval of the roof as submitted, and due to lack of information, there is no recommendation for the fence.
Yeah, and I told him he would have to come, we would approve this tonight, and then he would have to come back to us, just so everybody's aware that that's on.
Did you say this was historic or contributing?
It's contributing.
I make a motion to approve.
Second, please. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you. Okay, 701 Washington Street.
Jay Slutskin, Jamie Slutskin, owners of the Boathouse Grill, Michigan City.
I wasn't able to get this one open, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Okay.
Okay, so,
And
I don't have it.
Read it.
Go ahead.
Okay, so they don't have this one, because this one didn't, the file didn't want to open when I sent it to them, so they don't have the.
We have copies if you
staff
guys want.
review.
Copies of signage we put on the building.
We're top dog.
Yes. They're all, it's the same packet.
Oh, he's spoken. Oh, I see. Okay, I know.
So while you're looking, I'll read you the staff review for 701 Washington. In the Washington Street Local and Haskell and Barker National Register Districts. The rating is non-contributing to contemporary style building. Date of construction was listed as 1990. It's a one-story brick-faced commercial structure with asphalt shingle hip roof, 1/1 windows and full glass doors. The proposed project is refacing the current signs. Said staff recommendation, the owners propose refacing existing signage to reflect the new business name. Staff recommends approval as submitted.
Has everyone had a chance to look at this? The signs look really nice.
Did you folks come up with the logo yourself?
We worked in combination with an artist.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's nice, I like that, yeah, it's cute.
Very good.
The signage is in, all aspects of it are in.
Yeah, I'm just, so basically, they've got a lot of signage there, they're just gonna be, they're just gonna be able to, they're basically refacing what they
Yeah,
have.
well, that's what I thought.
So that's
It's
totally
already
fine.
been approved there.
You know, if they wanna do something different in the future, just come back to us, but right now, they're just refacing, so we're good.
Any other questions? Can we have a motion?
So moved.
Second, please.
Second?
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hope to see you guys all soon.
Well, we wanted to be open soon.
Yes. Sure. So I come down tomorrow, pay for the permit and pick it up? Is that how?
Absolutely. It'll be ready for you tomorrow. I'll get it signed tonight, and I believe your application's on the back. So.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Great question. Great question. A few weeks, I'm sure.
Kathy needs someplace to take.
Very.
Thank you. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Good
Appreciate your time.
Yes?
Oh, thank you.
Gee, I didn't know they were all for that one.
But that's
I just heard that.
considerably.
Yes, okay, we're at 714, 716 Pine Street.
Okay.
Anybody here representing that? No, okay.
So the applicant's name is Adrienne Cook. I talked to her today also, been on the phone a lot. And she was sorry she could not make it tonight, but she answered quite a few questions, so hopefully I can answer questions as they come up. This property is in the Elston Grove Local National Historic Districts. It's rated contributing at Queen Anne, built in 1902. It's a two-story, constructed as a duplex. The foundation and walls are red brick. It has 1/1 wood windows with limestone sills and lintels. The hipped roof is covered with asphalt shingles. A 2.5-story turret is centered on the front wall with a wood porch on either side with slender Doric columns set on wood bases. A wood balustrade with turned spindles is between the columns. Matching wood balustrade and spindles are on either side of the wood steps leading to the front walk. So the proposed project is repairs to the steps, porch, and railing, wood to be painted white. So, staff recommendation, the owner proposes to replace all deteriorated wood on the steps, porch, and balustrades in kind. She also promised that she would put all the spindles in right side up. Because the last person that worked on them didn't put them all in the same direction. So she said she will put hers all in right side up.
Details.
Did she? Really? And,
I'm sorry.
okay, they're gonna scrape the loose paint and paint all the wood white. So as it all meets historic district guidelines, staff recommends approval as submitted.
The question that I had is, this one is how it originally was. This one is not.
No.
So is she going to put this one?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's gonna look the same.
Right,
They're-
yeah. She'll put the railing back on both sides.
And
of
put the
step.
pedestals back where they were
Yes,
supposed
now the one thing that may be different is at the top of each of those, that, I don't even know what you call it, it's
I don't-
just nasty. That's not original
not
to the
original.
house,
Oh.
that tall, roundish thing.
This thick thing?
Yeah, well, that one's sunk down in the rotten
Right.
post, so that's how they're supposed to look.
Yeah.
I don't believe those would have been original.
No, they weren't.
They would have probably had something way more decorative.
She said they're not, and she said they don't propose to put those back because they think they look nasty. But otherwise, everything's going back the way it was, and it'll all be out of wood.
What I was asking, if you look at this one where you see the railings are on, and then this one isn't.
Yeah.
So they're gonna both be the same, which will be.
With rails.
Yeah,
Yes.
just won't have that ball, whatever that thing.
Whatever that thing is that's deteriorated on there is not gonna be there.
Yeah, those side railings actually they're beside the steps right now. If you look at the street view from 2018, they were there, but they were so rotten that they
Just fell over.
fell off.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Does it meet the code required height minimum,
Yeah.
36 inches?
As long as she's just repairing,
You don't have to
we
replace
don't
it.
have to deal with that. If she takes it all off, then we have a problem, but they're just repairing there aren't too many of the spindles. Balustrades are in pretty good shape. It's more the railing going down on either side of the
But if she
step.
adds a railing on this side, it has to be in,
I don't know,
That's how
handrail.
That's how it was.
without
she's-
railing.
If she's putting it back how it was. No, this
I
is,
mean, I
this
didn't
is how
measure it, it might be in compliance, I
It
didn't
might be
measure
the
it.
handrail.
this is how it was on both sides.
Right.
Somehow, this last few years, somebody has torn these off and put these steps all the way across. It's been a rental for off and on several times. Only reason I know it's right across from our church.
So she's going to repair the railings that are there and then,
And then take this out where they've overextended it and put them back.
yeah, okay, that was my question. So when she puts the railings back, if these are not correct height,
Well, that one, she won't, that one.
That one
probably
she's just
be-
repairing.
Right, that was just a
but
She's
if
not
she's
taking
putting-
it down.
But if you're putting new, you have to put it to,
It'd be if they were going to replace them, then they have to bring it up to code.
This one, she's not counting.
yeah, I understand that.
That
What-
one.
what I-
But the other side
The
where
other
there's no
side,
railing,
the
is
other
she gonna
side,
put?
there's no railing, and if they are going to put railings there, are they going to put it, if it's an inadequate size and doesn't,
More,
Yeah, I don't know the answer to
Question
that. That's
more
a-
is
It's a building code.
the railing on the
Yeah.
horizontal surface, not on
I
the,
don't know
It
how far
might
off
be, it
they
may be
are.
compliant, I don't know what the
Yeah,
measurements
you're
are.
right, I don't think there is a required measurement for those. Is there?
see, that's my question, though, if you're putting something, if she's essentially putting new rails,
Putting it back, yes.
Then she has to meet the code.
she has to meet
And that would be
code.
the inspection department.
That's what I'm saying, so
Or they
if,
could grant an exception too.
well,
They've
that's,
been known
that's my
to do that.
question, yeah, if that happens, what overrides, I mean, does code,
It'll be whatever the building commissioner says. It'll be up to Sue.
So will Sue have to inspect that?
She'll, oh,
Oh,
absolutely.
yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
that was my
Actually,
question.
Sue and Lily will probably go out there and.
Well,
That was my question.
And the thing too is, because they're altering the steps, if you
Right.
look at that, so yes.
Yeah, no,
it would have to
I don't know what the measurement is. If we knew the measurement, we could.
It's 34 to 36 inches.
Well, yeah, I know that,
Right.
but we don't know what that.
We don't know
is.
what this
Accessible
is.
measurements, or is that for-
We don't know.
We don't know what the measurements are on that, the dimension.
The way I understand the code to read is that if you replace, at least in building construction, if you replace more than 25% something, then it all has to be brought up to code.
That's what I'm
But you-
getting at.
With all the railing you got here, we won't be replacing more than 25% of it.
Okay.
Yeah, Sue will take a look at it.
But it still has to come, they still will have to get a permit.
Absolutely.
Right.
So I have another question, just to clarify. So if in fact, when they put the new railing, it has to be raised higher than the old railing, they can just repair the old railing even though it's not conforming to the new?
Yeah, they can. So that's gonna be up to the builder.
That's kind of my question. Because there's a lot of houses that have two stairways, and, you know.
Any other questions? No, those are good questions. The thing of it is, what I want is, it's gonna look a lot better than it looks right now if you've driven by it.
Well, right now, it's unsafe.
Oh,
I would
that's
think
right.
so, yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's
So,
very unsafe.
okay,
I recommend that we approve it.
okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same. Okay. 802 Pine.
Okay, 802 Pine. This is in the Greenwood Residential is the applicant. It's in the Alston Grove Local and National Historic District. The style is Queen Anne, circa 1900. Property is a two-story Queen Anne with asphalt shingle covered pitch roof, attic gables and dormers. Windows are 1/1 double hung, and there's a two-story bay window on north and south side. The concrete porch with hip roof covers the west entrance. Alterations: the original house siding has been covered with perma stone. Windows have been replaced, many are shortened. New roof was approved in June 2017. COA 2018-004 approved replacement of several broken vinyl windows with new vinyl windows with the condition of installing trim per staff report. This proposed project, 1, is to install brown aluminum trim coil over 3 existing vinyl window exterior wood casing. And 2, to install white aluminum trim coil over the existing porch fascia wood trim on the north side entrance. Staff with recommendation for part 1. The windows approved by COA 2018-004 do not fit the window openings exactly, as evidenced by the wood that's been added on the sides and the piece at the top to hold the window in place, as well as an excessive amount of caulk. The same COA contained the condition of the windows being trimmed out properly with wood on all sides, primed and painted. Staff still recommends wood trim, primed and painted. Second part, on the fascia, the existing fascia on the north-facing porch gable, roof gable appears to be covered in white aluminum. Staff recommends replacement in kind of existing fascia as needed and retaining as much original wood trim as possible. The wood arch in the porch roof gable should be repaired if necessary, scraped and painted. And they did not return my call, so I don't know precisely the scope of the project when it says fascia. I mean, to me, I'm not sure what we're talking about on here. This is aluminum already, I don't know. I don't know if they're talking about the sides.
I wondered if he was talking about this underneath. I
truly
drove by and I didn't
don't know.
understand it either.
And which window, you were saying that the recommendation is to put wood trim primed and painted around the windows.
There were 3 windows last year that they replaced without asking,
Yeah, and they just filled them in.
and they did not get the right size, and they filled them in, and it looks disgusting. So they need to be trimmed out with the right size wood, painted, primed, period, in my opinion.
And if you drove by there and you saw the windows up above are a lot smaller and they have probably this much wood above them.
These are closer at least.
Yeah.
But that was approved. I mean, we approved the window replacement because it had already been done.
Right.
And then we approved
We're talking about this one.
trimming them out with the right kind of wood. And that's never happened. It's been a year and a half. And
So they would trim around the wood piece, is that kind of?
well, they've just kind of shoved things in to make it fit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they need to put decent wood trim. It's a small area, very, very small area, but it should be nice and even all the way around. I don't
Finished on.
know.
And that, when we're talking about these big windows.
And of a decent type of wood that would last. This is just a hodgepodge.
It's going to be pretty hard to attach wood to that artificial stone though.
Yeah, well, I don't really mean jumping out here, but if they'd go over those, this one isn't maybe the best shot. I should have pulled out one of mine from last time. Because there's ones where there's a piece of wood here and a piece of wood there, and it may be angles, it doesn't even go straight, and they filled it in with a bunch of caulk. It's a mess.
It's over on the other.
Yeah.
And then were you recommending replacing something else?
Well, I'm just saying, I'd love to know exactly what they're talking about on this porch roof, because they
Yeah,
talk
right.
about white fascia, and I would certainly consider this to be, this already is white aluminum fascia. I don't really see a problem with that, but if it needs to be replaced, I guess it has been. I would certainly say this arch must be retained. That's a character defining feature, one of the few that haven't been violated. I don't know if they're talking possibly also about the sides here, this little bit of wood, or this could be fascia too. That's not ever been covered.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering if they were talking about this. Because like you said, Deb, this doesn't look bad.
No, it doesn't.
It's this that's bad.
So I'm not sure, and they never returned the call, so I can't say.
Would you guess that this is probably lap-sided originally?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Nice looking house once upon a time.
Absolutely.
So can we make a recommendation based on what we think should be done?
Give your opinion and make it a.
Or can we wait until you have an opportunity to talk with the owner and find out exactly what they want to do?
We could.
Especially with their history.
That's up to this board to, if you guys wanna do that, then that's y'all's decision.
Well, with their history of the window.
I mean, if they're not gonna return phone calls and give you the information, I would, I mean, there is a hammer to it, if you will, you know, so if they have to give us information if we request it. But that's up to the board. That's just my opinion.
I don't think we really know what they're doing.
There's a lot going on with this house.
Yes, there is.
So do I have a motion to table this until the owner?
So move on table.
Are you comfortable with that?
We could do that.
I mean,
So then you'll just,
That gives us 30 days, right?
gives us 30 days for them to submit some information, and I'll make sure Sue knows what's going on with it.
I'll reach out to him again. I called him at least a week ago. Plenty of time to get a hold of him.
Oh, I don't doubt that.
So,
Okay,
Wait, do we need a second for,
we
Yeah.
did. We had, Connie did.
oh, okay.
I'm sorry. Okay, 803 Franklin Street.
now,
Hello, I'm Esther Gunton, and I have the business The Nest. And
September.
now this one, you're gonna have to look at more information than you've got in front of you, because I can't possibly describe this one, so I'll read you a
I'm
little
not sure I can do
background.
it even when you show it.
So, this is Esther
Gunton.
Gunton, okay, Esther Gunton. Building is at 803 Franklin, in Franklin Square Local Historic District, in Franklin Street National Register District. It's rated non-contributing. modern is the current classification for it. It was actually first constructed in 1890, but it's been, well,
It's had a bad
renovated, shall
70s
we say. Not sure what the word is, but badly redone in 1970. So it's a one-story brick commercial building with a significantly altered facade, and that's what resulted in the non-contributing rating. The proposed project, the company, Riffraff Giraffe, offered to paint murals in the Uptown Arts District. Amy Ayers and Jason Harrington own this business.
That's been amended. We've decided not to go with them because the drawings they submitted were substandard.
Okay, so still thinking of a mural anyway.
Yes.
So looking at doing a mural on both the front and the back of the building. Okay. So the staff recommendation for this, and this, you need to see all the possibilities, because once I saw it, it was really hard to even write this because I wasn't sure where to head with it.
And I'm going to change something too. Since we spoke,
Okay.
I decided to just face it with that material I talked to you
Okay.
about, and just get rid of the arch and just do a flat front.
Oh, good.
Okay.
With that top layer being able to be removed so I could change it out periodically.
Well, that's even better.
Yeah.
So she was proposing several different mural designs for the front, and we talked about it going clear down to the sidewalk or just above the windows. And then the other thing that you'll see here, and you really need to see it to understand it, is this sculpted foam that would cover over this very nasty wood arched look underneath. So it's dimensional and art, but I think something that could work in that neighborhood. The building, is it two businesses to the south, has a rainbow mural on the front, so it's not unheard of in that area, but I feel like this is interesting and would draw people there without it being just strange, shall we say. Then she'll also show you a mural that she'd like to put in the back of the building that's not seen from the street, so I don't see any problem with that. I think that's perfectly fine. So, why don't you show me what you got?
But now here on this, it says the back of the building
So
is seen
next
from
to-
Washington Street.
It is seen. There's, yeah.
You can
More
see.
so in the winter than
Yeah.
in the summer because there's that big lilac tree.
Right. I just,
Okay. So, we've got the building. I don't know if I can do this backwards or not, we'll see.
Are you saying the mural would not be painted on, that it would be on vinyl or something, and then
The vinyl will be on Tim Haas's building, which I brought pictures of.
we're talking about two different buildings
Two
now.
different buildings, yes.
We can't do that. This is just for 803.
Right, this is just for.
So in your
Right.
building, it will be painted on the building, or it would be on?
I think it is going to be painted onto this foam product that I'll attach to the
So-
building.
So how do we directly apply to the building?
That's what we're
Panel,
questioning.
if you will, and then apply is what.
Yeah, I think that's what we're going to do.
So she can change it out,
Right.
do different things with it.
Tell me which one is.
Nest mural, it's at the bottom, it just needs to load.
Okay, just needs to load.
Will the back one be painted, applied directly?
Yes.
Yeah, that one will be, okay, that's the way I understood it as well. Yeah.
The design is, I'll probably do a majority of that painting. We're having a professional come in, prep the walls, and then probably a professional to come and seal the wall as well.
Okay, so,
If you change the mural out, if you do a process by which you change the mural, would she have to come back and get approval for?
I would imagine I would do
Yeah,
that
just-
anyway,
I would-
yeah.
okay.
I'm thinking like in 3 to 5 years, probably.
I mean, it might be,
Unless she becomes super famous, and then it's a whole nother issue.
then you don't want to change it, right? You just wanna
Right,
keep
then
it.
it just becomes, then it becomes.
okay, so do you want to explain to them what they're seeing a little bit?
All right, this artist is Lauren Asta, and she's an up-and-coming artist and has been doing a lot of buildings. And part of her process is that she doesn't do drawings really ahead of time, except I am going to give her clues as to what I want. I want her to focus more on floral and fauna and the just more symbolic of our area. But she starts in the left-hand corner and then she just paints. So it becomes performance art as well. She said it really always garners a lot of attention and excitement because people watch her do it, and she's not working from drawings, she's just intuitively painting. And so I had initially had only envisioned it being from, the like above the windows. And then I am working with a design firm, and he submitted pictures with it going all the way down, and it's just really stunning. I was, I don't know, it just makes it more fully realized.
That's without the banners, I guess.
Right, and so forget the clouds and all of this, because this is just going to be flat.
So that's the actual,
That's not the actual design, because we just pulled from previous things that she has done around the country and just kind of cobbled it on our building.
that's
But
my
it will be
question, though, don't
black
we
and
need to
white.
know?
Yes, it will be black and white.
We need to know.
So the clouds aren't going to be?
No, it's just going to be flat, no arch anymore.
Okay.
And that will help us. Part of the problem with my building is that since we're attached to Station 801 restaurant, I have multiple people coming in thinking we're the restaurant, and this will
They used to
truly,
be.
yes.
Yeah.
And then they used to have both places where
Right.
one was Cedars,
Right.
Cedar Sub and Peter's Dairy, Dairy, yeah.
And there still is, I think, in the back. Can you still go from one to the other?
We left the adjoining doors because we hope to collaborate at some point. We just haven't figured out how to do that yet.
Yeah.
Same with the Canterbury. I have like two fabulous neighbors on either side, and I think we finally figured out how we're going to collaborate with the Canterbury, and Mike and Donna and I haven't quite figured that quite out yet. But they had thought that if they had a big party, they could just spill out over into mine, and yeah, we'll figure it. We have a long time to figure it out.
Do you have a picture of the rear?
I do. It's like, oh gosh, I do. I think I don't.
Oops, wrong
I don't
file.
think it is on there, but I have it.
Okay.
I'm very excited about the second one on the back as well, because Greg Hertzleib, who is the curator of the Brower Museum, I asked him to design for the back of the building, and boy, he submitted a beautiful design.
It's kind of hard to tell what this would look like. We have this old building that is kind of, doesn't have such a good facade. And will this look like an old facade has been painted, or will it look like some kind of slick, flat thing that is like a new, modern face to the
It will be
building?
more contemporary, and it would, it would designate it as a separate building from the other one then.
But does the material, because you're painting it on something else that's some kind of board, does it then create a big plane for this to be on?
A very smooth one. It's not wood. It's a high-density foam it's a very lightweight material, for one, and they use it in all sorts of outdoor applications. Columbus, Indiana has used it extensively for a lot of their signage. It's used, I heard, on boats, so it's really impervious to the weather. It's carvable. It's, they come in 4x8 sheets, and it's a
So
very...
if I understand correctly, though, you do not have a definite design.
No, just her style. I have a definite one for the back, but I could then
That's
bring...
where I have a problem, because, I don't know if we should approve something that we,
So we'll just throw this in, because we just encountered this in Angola, because they just had their first mural put up. Their city planner was previously in Auburn, Indiana, and they had dealt with the mural there, and the city got sued largely because they were trying to approve the design that was going on the mural. and they got into issues with freedom of speech and freedom of expression, and the city lost. So when it came up in Angola, they were just like, we can regulate the size and the location. We can say that it can't say anything defaming about someone else, or it can't be an ad.
Can be commercial speech, but
Right.
you can't control what.
Oh, and I
really
certainly
can't.
would never approve anything obscene. I mean, that would be, I'm going to, the keywords that I'm going to give her are aquatic related, maybe space related, birds, and maybe, you know, I thought even like if she could do a series of flowers at the bottom that then leads into the top, it will be tasteful, because
So-
my gallery is very
So what
contemporary
we're
and
really
tasteful.
tonight is approving the change, the facade of the front of the
Can they
building.
make this building look the way, have a facade? Can it have a new facade on it, essentially?
That's the question, yeah.
It's a little, I love the idea of the art,
Yeah,
and I love the idea of thinking of it as art.
but
But when the facade of this funny old building becomes the art, is
Yeah.
where it starts to break apart a little bit for me. And just because, you know, I don't know, it seems that it's more permanent, it's less changeable that way, rather than if it was like a major, big element of art.
And that's why I've designed it so that that can be taken, that top layer would be able to be taken off. But next to me, just a few doors, I think almost right next to Roger, is the costume world that has a top to bottom degraded mural, which we're trying very hard to get repainted. We're looking at trying to find a funding for her so that we can replace it as is, but just make it fresh.
Make it look
and-
nice.
Yeah. So I've been working with Sue to try to make that come to fruition.
I guess one other thing to consider, not to be a downer on the mural, because I do think it's great art, but in our guidelines, it does say that murals are considered signage, and signage should be on the storefront, part of the overall storefront, and the design, it says specifically, should not overpower the building in the storefront. So, which in that case, perhaps restricting it to that area above the windows would not be as overpowering as going to the sidewalk, but that's up to you guys. That's just a thought.
I thought when Leeds put the mural on the side of their building, we were told we had no control over the mural, wasn't it?
that's what I thought too.
Yeah.
But
Because Sue Downs.
Right, as long as it didn't have a name in
Well, I
it
think
and
what
it
she
wasn't
was- I think what she was
advertising, it was
referencing
art.
Is that you can paint a mural on any building.
Right.
That's not in the historic district. As long as it doesn't have commercial signage on it. So like, if I owned a florist shop, I could plant flowers, but I can't say Skylar's Florist Shop on it. You know, more than what's allowed on the building. So 100 square footage is there, and I want to paint a 200 square foot mural plus that 100 square footage. It can't have commercial speech on it. If that makes sense.
so we can,
But you guys get control over murals, painting of brick, things like that inside the district.
right, so,
But then how come Leeds doesn't, how come the Leeds mural didn't come?
They did not ask for it at the time.
Sue went down and they did not apply for anything. And they did it on the weekend.
A common thing in both the part that they put it on in Leeds and this would be that they're both non-contributing. That addition to Leeds is new,
Right.
modern, non-contributing. And this
This
appears to be modern and is non-contributing.
Yeah.
So that's a factor that.
I think that has to play, really key role in it as well.
Because right now it is very unattractive. I hate to say
It's
that.
very sterile. It's a sterile building. It
Yeah.
is. It
Both
doesn't-
of them are.
It was my
Yes.
least favorite building in all of that strip, and I can't believe that's the one I ultimately chose, but I walked in there and it just felt good, and, not as is, because it was broken up into a lot of different offices and had bad floors and bad carpets and, an 8-foot ceiling and, all those things that you inherit, but I just walked in and it felt good. And the best part was during one First Friday, the man who had the shoe store that was there in the 40s, or he came in with his daughter and was so happy. You know, he loved our floor and what we did with it, and he was so kind. I could tell why it felt so good in that building when I walked in. You know, it just like had very nice businesses and.
Family
Yeah, it was family operated. I mean, he came in with his daughter, and he was just so sweet.
Well, not to put a damper, I'm like Deb, not to put a damper on your ideas because they are wonderful, of course, but I guess what we are going to be faced with, it looks like, is our decisions on if we are going to continue to allow facade change for murals in that whole area there, because that's what's going to happen. You know, which, I'm not saying it's good or bad, I'm just saying that that is probably going to be an issue here.
Well, would it not only be, it would be to non-contributing buildings?
Well, we
correct?
gotta consider that, dude. Plus, you can't, there's no precedent setting here. You make decisions based upon every case. I mean, every case is different. Just like any other Board of Zoning appeals, those are cases they're not precedented upon approval of well, this was like that.
Yeah.
It's its own merit. They weigh their own, they have their own weight and own merit, you know. And the fact that it's a non-contributing building probably weighs pretty heavily. If you wanted to paint, say where Urban Souls used to be, probably wouldn't want to paint that.
Well,
There's the mural for the back by Greg Hertzley.
So I think you have to weigh the buildings upon their own
So,
merit.
let's get back to the Amber and the legalities of this. So a non-conforming building,
Not contributing.
or non-contributing, I'm sorry, in the historic district, do we actually have
Yes.
any say on
Yes,
that?
you do.
We do?
As long as it's in the boundaries of your district.
As much as any other building.
So say they tore it down, when you want to say everywhere goes back?
I'm just making sure I know where we're at now after this
Yeah.
road thing.
Oh, and boy, do I wish more than anyone that it had maintained its historic properties, because that's what I'm so attracted to.
And that's not to say, Esther, in 10 years, someone buys your building and puts the facade back, they get an old photo and
I wish I
literally
would
put
love
the
to
building
find an
back.
old photo.
That-
But
those things happen
They
all
changed
the time.
everything. Those windows weren't there. It was a different shape, I heard.
I mean, they may tear the facade off and come to the board and say, I'm gonna make it look like this in 1880, you know, or whatever. They could do that stuff.
No, I think the other thing we have to take into consideration is that is now also the arts district. And I think the fact of adding the murals in really just adds to the art district feel of Franklin Street, and should be a factor that we would take into consideration.
But I still think a mural is different from painting the whole facade of the building. I'd like to just make that distinction.
Murals generally, not to contradict that, but murals generally do entail covering like a whole area in general. I've been painting it
Mural
since the 70s, and we used to do the whole alleyway of a city, you know, or a town. So they have historic not in the sense that this is the historic board, but they have history of covering very large areas. Did you see the Beecher article on the huge mural that they did in LaPorte? That is very vast and wonderful, and just driving through Pilsen and Chicago, they cover vast areas. My building is very tiny though. I mean, when we're talking about it, it's like, doesn't cover more than like 450 square feet of like surface. Yeah.
And the other thing is, it's a shame that we looked at this case before we were looking at yours, where you see this permastone on the front of the building that so badly altered it. And then the image that you were showing with the black and white drawing just looked awfully busy to accept as a facade for the building. And once again, if it was just a piece, a portion of it, even if it's a very large portion that seemed to be as an art piece rather than the whole facade, sometimes it's different to me.
See, to me, the painting a facade is a piece of, then you have a whole building that's a piece of art.
Yeah,
As opposed to just a part of it.
My thought on that, though, is the historic, there was not an art district in the historic district, right?
Right, sure.
So what we are doing is we are opening the door and we're saying we are changing this district. This is a historic district. And we are now opening the door and we are changing the guidelines whereby, it will become an art district versus our historic district. So that's where I'm not saying it's not lovely, I'm not saying any of those things, I'm just saying, do we want to?
It's already happened though.
Yeah.
Well, I understand that.
That's the thing.
But if we do have the ability to, like you said, okay or not okay to change the facade on it.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't let someone paint, brick that hasn't ever been painted or anything like that.
I'm just saying, I think we need to,
I think that's what I'm
think
saying.
about
I think you have to judge it on a case-by-case basis. If
Right.
somebody come in and wanted to paint brick that had never been painted from 1880s, then
Cover over.
I would hope that you guys would not do that.
Yeah.
So if somebody
Pull
drove
it
down
out.
there, would in 5 years from now, would they say, oh, this is the historic district, or would they say, this is the art district? I mean, what are we?
I mean, most cities, all those things are kind of juxtaposed to each other. I mean, most historic districts are art districts as well in most cities. And most art districts have those historic qualities. That's why they're art. That's why people want to be there. They have those senses of place and space. And it's not to say that they're intrusions. You already have an intrusion as it's a non-historic building. It's a non-contributing building. It's already there.
It's already altered.
That's just my opinion. I think storefronts change, but
They do.
there's a lot of great buildings down there that I would really hate to see a full sale mural on. I would just cry probably.
See, that's what I was afraid he was wanting to do, was to paint that on the building, on the original building. But,
even our guidelines state that that's a good use of a sidewall or a back that's a larger blank space. And I was at a Main Street conference a week ago in South Bend for Indiana and part of Michigan. And that's just the thing I heard over and over as they talked about placemaking, the importance of arts in the downtown and what a draw that is. And the murals that were everywhere, which is kind of hard for me because in preservation we're usually pretty anti-mural, but that is what's drawing people, and as well as sculptures and other forms of art installations.
And if you
in the
think of
downtown.
the investment that the city has already made in art space, I mean, that's been a really
And has
sizable-
preserved a lot of buildings.
Yes.
Just in the addition of
Yeah.
So-
I mean, is the consensus, going back to you, is the consensus, is just the worry that it's just kind of overwhelming for the whole entire 450 square feet? I mean, does it have to be the whole front? I mean, or is that just, I guess is the.
No, and that's why the panels can be removed.
Yeah, it sounds like that's a
Just-
concern of just the whole front is a.
Like the whole bottom part
Yeah.
is exactly 107 square feet,
Is there-
the bottom part, because it's mostly window. All we're talking about are the
little
the
strips
three
of-
pillars and the bottom part, which probably will be covered with all my planters and stuff anyway. But that part would be flowers and foliage and.
I'm just wondering if there's a balance that we can strike
Mm-hmm.
with this for everybody's.
And we don't really know what the mural is going to be, either. I mean, it's a
No.
mural, but we don't know.
you don't really know.
No, we don't, not until the art.
No, but I can tell from her work what it will
But
be,
that-
because she
that's
has a
what
very
we're saying, something we
consistent
don't-
style, kind of almost like Keith Haring with his outlines that he used to do very intuitively as well. And I would ask her to, have lots of animals and fish and different things like that. We would have a discussion ahead of time, because my favorite things are, deep space and then the ocean. So I would want her to focus on those two themes. As Greg did when I gave him, this is, and he does, everything is symbolic with Greg, and so I gave him sort of the same parameters too, but said, I gave him no other instruction than just some of my favorite things. And so this band here is the way he interpreted the nest. The compass is on there because I bought the building to change the direction of my children's and my lives. And so my building, like I was very inspired by all the buildings, the Zorn building and all the buildings that have the stone. So I named the building Compass. And so he put the compass in, and the blue, which I thought was the water, is actually the sky, and those are the planets and the stars. That's his interpretation of it. Or those are like the planets, I guess, and this is, he expanded these stars to be huge, so these points are supposed to be stars. And then the fish is, you know, the fish in the water, then like the serpent or whatever. So that's how he interpreted, you know, my favorite things.
On the front of the building, is it set in black and white, or could it be in some other color?
I kind of would, I didn't necessarily want a whole bunch of color, but it's almost like an outline. I mean, like you know, what kind of colors were you thinking? Like
Blending more with the brick that's on the building.
There's only a small amount of brick on the building. That top part is some stucco thing. And some wood arch, I think.
In your mind, do you see it needing to be the entire building?
I didn't at first. Like when I first started this journey, it was just the top. And then when that design was submitted, it was just so powerful and so striking that, you know, it got me thinking, wow, this is really a statement, because on my block, which is Rogers Block, we have no traffic. First Friday, I can have 4 people come for First Friday, where I talked to Linda, and she's got they count with a counter, 250 people. So I get 4 to 10 of those 250 people. And so I actually told Main Street, you know, can you put some of the entertainment down on our block? And so they did have a musician, and yes, we did have more people, but people, you know, all the images of the district go from 8th Street north, and hardly anything goes 8th Street south. So I don't even feel like that part is really considered, you know, the district necessarily. And so I was kind of, when I saw this, I went, wow, who's going to ignore this now, you know, when they, because here it is. And I don't think with the black and white, I think it's more subtle than maybe a colorful mural. And then I think, and if the board approves, we are really working diligently to get Costume World repainted, as is though, you know. Because she doesn't want to do, you know, she would like it painted exactly the way it is, maybe just the lettering changed. Because she's hoping to rent out that bottom portion. But it's the board's decision, and of course we'll comply with it. The only thing I could say is that that's part of the reason I have the, you know, the ability to take it off. So maybe if it's not liked, we can pull those couple panels off for the bottom, because I still would really like to face out the whole building and really distinguish from Station 801, so I look like a separate business.
Any other questions?
No.
Well, could I just read this from our handbook? And again, I'm just sort of undecided on this. Appropriate would be repainting with colors commonly used at the time the building was constructed. How old is that building?
Well, the addition's 1975.
Okay.
That's when it was remodeled.
Consider using different shades of the same color when variation in color is desired. But there is a danger of the color scheme to become too busy. Generally, the less number of colors used, the more effective the results. Request assistance from the Historic Review Board staff on appropriate historic paint and palette colors. So there, you know, we had a long issue on the paint palette and all that. I remember a year or so ago on that. So I guess that's where I'm a little concerned about a mural that just doesn't fit into what we're trying to do.
Is black one of the historic colors? Do you know? I know white is one of them, and
Well,
turquoise.
that's why I keep saying, you know, you don't even know what she's going to paint.
I do know that it's going to be black and white.
She did say black and white.
Okay,
Yeah, black
so
and
that's
white.
what, that's.
Black and white.
Okay. Remember the one, was it the restaurant downtown where he had it painted and the color was crazy? He thought they were going to paint it one color and they painted it a
I know
different
which one
color.
that was.
Yeah, remember that? Oh my
All
goodness.
Maxines.
Yeah, and that Maxine, right, and that's when we got into the whole palette thing. So it will be a black and white mural.
Yes.
So Deb, what is the staff recommendation?
Staff recommendation is, I would say, keep it up above. I said,
Not the whole building.
where did I write it? Here we go.
I think she's trying to preserve it.
So I said, the proposed mural for the rear of the building will not be visible basically from the street, not from the main street, from Franklin, and is acceptable. Given the non-contributing rating of this building and the extensive modern alterations to the front facade, a mural might be considered for the front, but should not overpower the storefront. So staff recommends approval of the proposed mural at the rear of the building, and a mural for the front facade, I would say, to be confined to the space above the storefront windows, with a preference for the foam alternative, because we talked about just doing it on what's there or the foam, which I think the foam looks better. I mean, to me, I'm looking to it being a mural. And the mural goes under sign guidelines, not paint guidelines. So that's where I'm taking that from. That as long as it doesn't overpower, but I understand what she's saying, and it definitely is attention getting and it's amazing, but I'm not sure. I just don't know.
Yeah.
When I first read it, my first feeling was, over my dead body. But, you know, I came in there and we talked and we looked at this and it was like, this building is really ugly and I think this could really work.
It is
So-
really not attractive.
Yes.
I think a compromise would be keeping it
I
up.
think it's a good
I agree with
compromise, in my opinion.
I think that would be
Gigi,
good.
how do you feel about that?
I do feel more comfortable with that and
You seem to be, that's.
yeah. So, when I approach something architecturally, which is, have problems like this with an old ugly facade or whatever, my goal is always to try and do something strong to change the building. And so we're not doing that now, we're just really kind of doing something that covers the problem. And that's why it feels to me like it shouldn't be trying to be the facade to the building. It's just because you're not really completely able to change it. So I think it would look less like you're just covering up a problem and more like you're putting some art on it. I guess that's what it is.
See, I like the whole building because it fits in with the whole art district. And I think that, if we look at Austin, Texas, and a bunch of other places that are using a lot of murals in historic areas, they're doing whole buildings. And it just feels appropriate for what I think Michigan City's vision of the art district is. So.
I don't know, I don't think very many buildings are going to be asking for this. And I don't think there's going to be a flood of historic buildings doing this.
And keep in mind, you guys
But
still
who
get the
knows?
say over that.
Yeah.
So.
Right, how would you feel with not doing the bottom half of the
Oh,
building?
I'm fine with whatever the board decides, yes.
It would seem like you might even have to do something on the lower portion of it if the mural is only on the top part, the bottom part.
Well, it
Might have
also
to be
doesn't have
changed to
historic
paint it or
brick.
something.
They did not put anything, the brick is like very nondescript brick, but I didn't want to paint over the brick. So, but the other option is that,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Not
just-
at all great brick, so that would be
So my
another reason
portion-
for going clear of the sidewalk.
My portion of the building
Yeah.
would be right here, because of course even though I think technically we could split that, I would just give that over to Station 801 and I would just distinguish it from the end of this window to the end of that pillar, so that it's one. And so if I take away the arches, then it's definitely the arches are Station 801, and that's their look. But the other option is that I just paint the mural over the arch, because it would paint out anyway, and I don't have to really then invest in the foam to go over it. I could just have that top part painted pretty easily.
It's pretty big. Looking at it, the top part's pretty.
It's like 400 square feet on the top.
Yeah, it's a big space up there.
Yeah, going down, there's not much.
Yeah.
No,
And at the
right.
bottom, there's not much. It's the top that's the big.
The top is the big part.
I'm wavering.
What's the pleasure?
Well, I will make a motion that we approve the artwork from above the window. Not the bottom part.
So you're talking about a mural just
Above the brick.
Above the
Above.
storefront.
above the windows.
Above the window, yeah.
And above the.
How far up you would just do that
Yes,
archway,
yeah.
or how far
Yeah,
up
Yeah,
to
show
the?
us, show us.
It can
I was
go all
hoping
the way
down,
to the top.
yes.
I think, yeah.
I can't see my mouse from over here.
I think what she's talking about is above the storefront windows.
To the
All
top.
that's fair game for her to
Right,
use.
so it would be everything
Yeah.
to the roof
Yeah.
line.
Mhm. And so then in that case, maybe if I just do this, I might keep the arch, and I might do our logo and do signage here, because I also would like to have, and that would be a separate thing that I would request, because I'm a nighttime business and I'm hoping to have some very gently illuminated light to distinguish. Then I might do the signage in there and do a very, very open sort of drawing in this part, and then have another very subtle piece in that arch and work with the arches too. So I can, of course, like once we get closer to this and once I see I'm still waiting for costs of the mural and cost of all the prep work, and I can come back again then with what the design, yeah.
I think that's reasonable.
Is this the, I can't see that part. Is this the mural thing?
No, that was the artist that I decided not to go with, yeah. The things that they showed us to get us to like them are not what they showed us on our, it was awful, it was so awful.
I think what you just said about putting signage is excellent, because it's hard to see your little nest sign
I know.
in the
Yes.
window.
Right.
And,
Well, I did, so you know that like 6 months after I opened my business, the other business 6 doors down from me opened up with nest number 4, and I had, I was like, oh, do I change the name of my building? I mean, my business, or what do I do? What do I do? And so I didn't want to invest in the big signage unless I, and so all of our artists said, please don't change the name, but it's confusing still to this day, the 2 nests. So now I'm ready to move forward.
where's the other nest?
It's in the art space building.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, is it then your plan to come back with something? Because one of the reasons that this is alluring is to cover up that ugly arch, which is not really a real arch even. And so,
I mean, it is like it's, yeah.
Yeah, that's what they did during the period that we were.
Yeah, because
but
it's
so
on
if
801
you're
too.
trying to do something else that now involves a mural and some signage, it gets a little bit murky about exactly what you're going to do.
Yeah, before I did signage, I would certainly get all approvals before I went ahead. Yeah, it's just time to finally say, here we are.
So, is there a motion on the floor?
Oh, yes, there is.
Roger.
Roger made a motion.
But should that motion also include, Roger, the approval for the mural on the rear as well?
Yes,
Okay, just
I didn't say so, but it does.
Okay, so Roger is saying we're approving the mural for the rear of the building as you showed. Yes. And then the front of the building, we're asking that it be from above the windows
Right.
to the
And
top.
then, and based upon what she submits to us in another month or so. Okay.
Okay, now I'm confused.
No, if you're going to use, say, that arch space to be a sign, then you
Then you
probably
need to
need to
come
come
back.
back.
Oh, yeah, that sign won't happen right away.
Okay.
The sign is like in the
think-
future, and that would be a separate thing that I would submit before I do
Okay.
that.
She needs
Yes.
approval for the mural so she can start planning the mural.
Right.
And then knowing in her head that arch, she's gonna reserve that space.
Yes,
possibly
I'm
for
gonna
a sign.
decide whether I go
Or maybe
with the
it's
arch or
mural.
not.
Okay.
Or maybe it's going to be a flat mural, or maybe I'm going to work with the arch. I'm not quite sure now at this point. I just thought if it went all the way down, I would just flatten the whole building. But now I'm, right. So it could go either way. So maybe when I get firmer, maybe when I have a firmer idea, when I have the numbers from all the companies, I should resubmit what's happening on the top when I know. Because right now it's going to be a mural, but I just don't know whether the arch is going to remain yet or not.
Okay.
I think
I
if
think
you,
that would be good to know. That was such an important part of your discussion, and we've all now agreed we don't like it. So,
I know. It's just it's also like an investment. It's like a financial investment thing because it's like more materials to build out from the arch and stuff. So I would like
some of
to.
the murals that I have seen, there's many of them around in the South Wabash in Chicago, where my office is. They're on some kind of big vinyl tape roll or
Isn't that
something.
cool?
So I don't know that they're adhered to the building. I think they're just maybe somehow.
They are, and that's the Tim Haas building. We're going to have that done. Hopefully, once I have his mural designs on this flash drive as well. And he has the 3-story building that's just ready for the mural that you saw. And we're going to do vinyl application with that. It's like really wonderful. And I could possibly do the vinyl with my back. But I think I want the experience of having maybe some artists in the community help me paint that mural, and because that seems like it would be a nice community building activity rather than putting the vinyl on. But Tim's definitely is this vast space that would be perfect, and you can get more detail, of course, with that, because you can take the artist's painting and digitally duplicate it, so you get a much more detailed design that you can really with painting the mural. I mean, but I'm not sure. I think I like with her. I was thinking about digital, and then just the whole performance art of it just is very appealing, and just the intuitive painting, which I'm sure she comes in with like what she's, she has her tools and but nothing I've seen of hers is obscene or objectionable. And mine, certainly, I would tell her, the things that I would like to see in it. Because here she's got some really charming birds, and I really like that aspect of it, and clouds and different things like that.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do you want me to try to read it again?
Yes.
Yes, Shermonda.
We have approved the back mural as is. The front, we are asking that the mural be from the top of the windows to the top of the roof.
Yes.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay. We have 4 in favor and 1 opposed. So it passed. And then you are, if you decide to do signage, that's another issue.
Completely, yeah. I'm not even to the point of designing that yet.
No.
And I think I heard Skylar say that with the blade sign, we can have lighted blade signs. Is that in the?
They can glow again. That's up to the board. I think they
Okay.
have purview.
Because on here I have a picture of the blade sign with the lights. Sorry.
There is standards for lighting. You obviously don't
This is
want
just
one.
a commercially, yeah.
Most of the time, they just need a halo.
Lighted
Not really
bulb
light
on
them.
blade signs?
Yes.
Is that one?
Yeah, something similar to that. It might not be that exact picture, but that's kind of what they do.
Something like that, with a light on either side.
Oh, yeah, they can be indirectly lit.
Or they can be from internally, right? Okay, yeah. I just, okay.
Yeah, they can be somewhere, I think, I mean, we can read the code, I don't recall what it is.
Right, and I would submit, because we're working on the Plateside grants for the Uptown Arts District right now.
All right. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you for.
Oh, no, thank you so very
Good
much.
luck with it.
Thank you.
Okay, we're moving along to 227 West 10th Street.
Tonight's concerns.
Find it first. All right, 227 West 10th is Galvin and Michelle in the Washington Street Local and Haskell and Barker National Historic District, rated contributing a T-plan house built in 1894. Subject property is on the corner of 10th and Wabash Streets. It's a 2-story frame house on a stone foundation. Asphalt shingles cover the gabled roof. Windows are 1/1 double hung. There are covered entries on south and west sides. A 2-story bay on the west side features a brick chimney on the west face with windows on the other 2 sides. Description of the proposed project, and this is taken from a quote that I think you all have attached to your application.
So hard to read.
It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. I had a siding contractor help me decipher part of it, and then I called the homeowner. And that wasn't terribly helpful, but I tried. So hopefully, this is the essence of it, is that they propose siding all walls visible from the street. So it won't be the entire house. It's only the ones visible from the street. That's what the owner told me this afternoon. And it does say something to that effect in the application. If you dig deeply into that, in that last, it starts really rambling about 4 lines from the bottom, but it does say that. I just couldn't understand exactly where it has something to do with the chain link fence and around to the east side. Anyway, what she said is all walls are visible from the street. So they're going to tear off the existing siding where it's necessary and install Royal Estate vinyl siding in the color pebble clay in the Dutch lap profile directly to the siding that exists. The J-blocks in the channel would also be clay. The corners would be white. Then they propose capping the door trim with white aluminum and installing 2 sections of an undefined length of soffit fascia on the porch ceilings, and that material is unspecified. So,
Is this a commercial building?
no, it is not. It's a house.
Do you have a picture of it by chance?
And I wish I did. You know, and I didn't realize there wasn't one with it because I was there and I didn't take a picture, and I'm not connected to the internet. It tipped me off. Let me see if I can pull it up. I know we've got it. I should have taken a picture when I was there. Oh, it says I am connected. Well, we'll try it and see.
It's strange looking building.
It's not terribly attractive, but vinyl Dutch lap is not the answer either. No, it's not doing, it will not connect, I'm sorry. It's not liking Michigan City right now for some reason, or my phone. So, anyway, my recommendation is, I went out and I surveyed this to see. Currently, there are no houses on 10th Street between Wabash and Washington that have vinyl siding. And it sits on the corner. So then if you look at Wabash, between 9th and 10th, there is 1 house with vinyl siding. So since there is virtually none in the neighborhood and vinyl siding is not permitted in the historic district, I would recommend denial of the application.
Those are the signs.
I would say, though, that if the board considers approval, it should be a conditional approval to remove all of the existing siding or install foam underlayment. Because if they install vinyl siding over that existing, it's gonna just do this right away. It's just gonna be a nightmare. And I would also recommend use of a traditional double 4-inch clapboard style profile, not Dutch lap, and using aluminum soffit fascia, not vinyl, because the homeowner thought it was going to be vinyl, and I would never recommend that. So I would certainly say all those conditions if you consider vinyl, but I don't think that's a good choice. I would recommend denying it.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a hard decision to make on that one.
Well, I move that we deny the application for vinyl siding. And then you'll provide guidance with her in terms of what would be a more appropriate.
Yes, that was challenging. I was talking with her on the phone, but I will talk more. I might even call actually the siding contractor and see if I could maybe do better.
I second that motion.
Can we approve the roof if the roof is going to be redone and is the same, to match?
It's the roof.
Well, at least that's what it says on the front page, match existing buildings, same roof, same siding.
It's this one.
It's 803, or 227 West 10.
Yeah, 227.
Deb,
Looks like this.
have you seen this new vinyl siding that has folding backward to it? That hardly looks like vinyl siding anymore.
I've heard that there is such a product. I haven't seen it in
I
real
got a
life.
sample of it in my office. I should have brought it in.
So
Is it
how does
high?
that compare in price to like fiber cement? Is it significantly cheaper, do you think?
I really don't know, but I would still think it'd be probably less, but not significantly less.
What I wondered, to get the
Because
foam
of the foam
backer and
back
the extra labor of installation. Is it attached or is it a separate backer board?
Oh, no, it's physically.
It's physically attached. I guess I was
yeah.
thinking of the old siding where they had the separate
Yeah.
foam backer board.
Yeah, so
So,
it's very rigid.
well, that would certainly help with that oil canning that always happens, especially that house mostly faces south and west, so it's gonna get a lot of sun. But yeah, I told her that I told her that my recommendation would be denial. I told her that on the phone. But I said, it's up to you guys. And she said, well, if it is denied, will someone call me back and tell me what to do? And I said, yeah, we will. We'll do that. So-
Okay, we have a motion from
I second
Kathy and second by Connie to deny this application.
Could we reconsider this if I bring the sample in for everybody to look at?
Well,
It's gonna be up to the homeowner to
Yeah,
choose that.
I think it's gonna be up to them because what if they can't afford it?
Okay.
I remember you brought that in and it was very nice. It was a year or so ago, I remember that. But no, I think for us to wait would be really kind of
She
silly.
needs to come back. I mean,
Yeah.
if there's some way you can show her, or her contractor can take a look at that,
Right,
and then she would come
The
back,
estimated
she would come back
Cost, right.
to
Right.
us with something
Because that
that's
was
appropriate.
Yeah.
Okay, so all in favor?
I,
Aye.
Opposed, same. Okay, all right, now we're, and no one is here for this one. 1,009.5 Franklin Street.
okay, this is Kevin Brown. It's in the Franklin Square Local Historic District and Franklin Street National Register District, rated contributing, a gable front, building 1886. The subject property is two-story building with clapboard walls, wood trim, and a metal roof. The building has a single storefront with recessed entry. The front storefront display windows and transoms are new wood windows. The walls below the display windows are covered with stone. A wood frieze board is at the top of the storefront. The second floor has 1/1 metal windows. Alterations, the second floor deck and stairs has been added at the rear. The proposed project is to build a roof over the existing deck and to match the existing building, same roof, same siding. So staff recommendation, the proposed roof over an existing rear deck will match the main roof in material and pitch at a slightly lower height. Its location at the rear of the property is barely visible from the public way. Staff recommends approval as submitted.
I have a question on this, Deb. I thought that one of the main reasons that Kevin Brown moved out of the building because of the railroad tracks coming through. Now he's
No, he lives in the building on the alley, Roger. He's lived there for
He does.
years. Oh, yeah. His building is next door.
His family's on that building.
This is, yeah, he's lived in this
Long time.
ever since he's been married, and so it's been 10, 15 years that he's lived there. And it's the one that's right on the alley. And I think there's a photographer in the front and the bottom part. Next door to that then is Reprographic Arts. That's the building that,
Okay, so, all right, so it's
Yes, yeah.
a couple doors north of it. of the
yeah,
alley.
right on the, it's right on the alley,
Gotcha.
and then that
Yeah.
car lot
I
that's
know what
in
you're
and
talking
out.
about.
Yeah, and the deck and everything is there, and they're just proposing putting a roof over it.
Okay,
And it isn't visible from Franklin, but it is visible from 10th, but I can't.
It was questionable, so that's why it's here before you guys.
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
So do I have a motion?
Also move.
And a second, please.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Okay, approved. All right, now we're at 810 Wabash.
It's the last one. Richard Neese.
Yeah, you're another one.
Washington, yep, 515.
810 Wabash.
Yeah, that one will be,
So what is the color of the brick? Is the brick brown or is it the pink?
Brown, isn't it?
The back photograph is brown.
well, it looks,
Oh, it looks brown. I never.
Oh, you found it?
I'm cheap, I print mine out in black and white. I never look back.
Yeah.
We have pink.
So, yes, it is a brown brick house, no matter what color it comes out.
this is the actual color.
Oh, okay, that's
All
a
right.
big difference.
That would be
Big
quite a
difference.
big difference.
in
I
that.
think it's just when it was printed out, or
Yeah,
maybe the
it's
sun
huge.
hitting it,
Could
or,
be.
Oh,
No.
okay.
It's so different.
It is, so it's a two-story brick house, asphalt shingle roof, and those shingles are pretty well going. Windows are 1/1 double hung with limestone lintels and sills. The porch spans most of the front first floor facade, has brick walls to the porch, and its flat roof is supported by square brick columns. The proposed project is roof repairs. All material will be the same as the house next door. It looks very much like it at 814 Wabash. Staff recommendation. The owner proposes to remove existing asphalt shingles on the front roof area, so we're only talking the front. Replace those with architectural asphalt shingles. This replacement in kind conforms to the Historic District guidelines. Staff recommends approval as submitted and encourages replacement of the remaining roof as soon as feasible.
And a lot of other things, it looks
Yeah.
like.
oh, yeah.
Estimated cost is 900. I hope they've got a good estimate on there.
So,
Well, I think he's doing it himself, so he's just,
It sure looks like more than just the front.
It sure does.
but he said he was only doing the front.
This doesn't look very good.
maybe the front was
No.
leaking.
No,
I just make the phone calls and write down what they say. I don't make up the story. So,
This is the front.
Yeah, that'll.
yeah, both bases and street, so it all needs it.
The whole roof needs it, but I think he's just patching it so it doesn't look so bad. Okay, do we have a motion?
Oh, I move for it to approve it.
Second, please.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Okay, passed. All right. And our last one, 515 Franklin.
That's just a maintenance review, that was in kind.
Which building is that?
It's Horizon.
That's Horizon Bank.
Horizon Bank?
If you didn't, they've been there working.
They basically put a new flat roof on it.
So when was that built?
It was leaking.
It was here when I came here in '88, so.
I don't
No
know.
idea.
The only reason I'm asking is I'm wondering whether that's replacing the original roof.
no, that's
I would,
a true
Oh.
estimate,
Oh, wow.
1,000.
I don't know.
that could be.
It probably could be.
Yeah.
I love that umbrella in the car.
I have a
CPD,
really, really big
rubber
one.
roof.
Do we We don't forget about it.
No, that's just income.
Okay. Okay. Any committee reports? I want to let you all know, and just because it's not really a committee report, but Connie and I went to the council meeting. We left at 10:30, and our letter had not been read that. This is a month ago. I went again to the next one, and it wasn't brought up because a couple of the officials thought it should be a letter sent to us first. So the last one, I did call down and say I wasn't going to come, which I didn't go. And all they did was read the letter.
Yeah.
E-signature.
Yeah, Connie went.
Yeah.
This was where they voted on the double tracking?
No,
This last one?
no.
This is the right thing.
Huh?
Well,
No, but I know, I'm just saying,
No,
it
it
was
was
a council meeting where they voted on.
No, not this one, it was.
It was the
2
one
weeks
before
ago.
that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so anyway. Just so you know, Connie got a little wild and we had to leave as it was getting long.
And then she got wild.
Kevin Brown.
It was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna be here till midnight. And when we saw you leave, we were wanting to leave. But anyway,
Kathy just left. And I'm like, well.
This is Kevin Brown.
I kept thinking it was,
Yeah.
but anyway.
Then I went, that next one was long.
This one.
Right, I think it was 10 o'clock or after for that.
Well, and I was at the last one, that was long too.
I know,
I
it's
bet.
well, they've all, and then the, well, the acceleration.
Yeah, if you guys can sign one for.
The one thing I will say that I was very impressed that a lot of younger people are getting involved with their opinions. Good or bad, I think it's great that they finally are doing that. The thing I see wrong with the city council meetings, how many times can I get up and tell you the same thing
Right.
over and over and over? And shouldn't my time be limited?
I agree with that. I think that we want to hear everybody, it's not that, but those meetings were just repetitious. I mean, it was just the same people getting up there saying the same thing, taking up more time, and, you know, I mean, I thought the same thing. I don't know, do they have a limit on how many times you can?
I was very impressed that Don Prespolinski
Yes.
kept his cool. He is a wonderful chairman of
Yes,
that
he is.
committee. And I was especially impressed when his brother got up and he
Yes.
didn't lose his cool.
Yeah.
And
That was sad.
I think, I agree, I think, I love to see that there are more people getting involved in the city. I wish they would do their homework better, because when they talked about the plaza and all of the things that they said could be used, that money could be used for,
Right.
free childcare, free healthcare. There was a long list, and the only thing of all the things on the list that the redevelopment commission could have paid for were bus shelters. So your voice would have more impact if what you were saying was correct and matched up with
What was the outcome of the meeting?
the outcome of the meeting is that, well, they stood up and protested. The redevelopment commission had already withdrawn its request for the $8.8 million bond.
Really?
Yeah, before the meeting, because
So
we
we're
knew
gonna
what
have
was.
just a piece of grass there now?
Well, no, there will be things there, there will be things there, it may not happen as soon as it would have happened had there been the $8 million bond. But if you look at, let's say, just as an example, because this is probably will not happen, but it's an example, and Skylar, you can help me. I think the annual payment on that bond was about $975,000 a year. So if the redevelopment commission just could take that money or a part of that money and invest it in doing something with that area that the city has already invested several $1 million in buying the buildings and taking the buildings down, there's still certainly a possibility of something that would be really beneficial to the city, in my opinion, and.
Is there some way that the city could have done something to educate the people more what was gonna happen before they?
Well, there were
There were a lot of
more meetings about.
I know, but
the
so why did all of a
possible-
sudden all these
Well,
comments
people-
come out of the woodwork?
Yeah, they all belong to the same group, and,
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is sad. But there were tons of meetings that you could attend for this way beforehand. But anyway. Well, anyone from the public want to comment?
Before we do, was there, we talked a little bit about the train station where Arcadia is last week, and you said, Deb, you might have some information about that.
I have not heard anything since then. Have you heard anything in your office?
No.
There's not been a single word. I don't know.
You know
I'm
the
sure they'll
building?
meet again. There were lots of people
Yeah, we wanna
talking
take
to
the building
different
down, tear it
people to
down.
see about the possibilities of where it could be relocated, looking into the costs. I gave them some names of movers that we've used in the past. Everybody was out checking different pieces of the puzzle, but as far as I know, there hasn't been another meeting of
I thought they
the
were just
interested
going to
parties.
move
That
part
was the original,
Part of
was
the
they were
building
going
back.
to move
Or
it
wait,
back.
which train station are we talking about?
downtown.
Downtown,
Michigan
just the
City,
only
Okay,
11.
okay.
Where the
Not
Arcadia
South
restaurant
Shore.
is.
No, she's talking about the one up here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure when you said
11.
moving it back.
Oh, wait,
Because-
we're talking about two different places?
Right.
You were asking about the Arcadia restaurant
Right,
building.
that's the one they're physically going to move somewhere else, or
I
attempting
thought-
to.
Well,
That's the
there
hope.
would have to be some funding gathered for
Right,
it.
yeah, so they were looking at different ways that they could do that, looking to maybe Amtrak to see if they would help fund that, looking to the developer, just exploring all the options.
But it's gonna be a difficult building to move.
Yeah, I think so.
Not a
Yes.
cheap one either,
No.
no.
Well, before something like that would be done, maybe it's too late to have a hope for anything like this. First of all, whether or not that area could be annexed to the historic district, and so that you could prevent something like that from happening. But the site down there is such a fabulous site and has so much potential, as does just generally that area, that it would seem to me that the city might want to be a little more involved with what happens, because, maybe that developer could be persuaded to do a more creative development than the thing that's planned, which is not.
And who wants to
Very
live next to a railroad track?
Yeah.
And it just, so many things could be done. The city would have to really get involved with it, but it's just such an important site, and is it impossible to hope that the city could?
I mean, we have design standards, but I mean, it's fair, there's free development. I mean, it's land that's owned by somebody.
But especially when I know, that's my aesthetic, and I'm very, very disappointed that such a good site has something that's just kind of not very interesting.
I think that what they were hoping is that they could buy the Lubeznik building and also use that as part of that site and do something much bigger there.
Oh, you aren't gonna buy that.
No, they're not selling it. I know that is not gonna happen.
That's like trying to move the library.
Right.
Yeah, that way back when the casino was coming, they wanted to buy that and he wouldn't sell. I mean, he would have sold, but couldn't
I
sell.
have seen in other cities where the planning department or the mayor is able to put some pressure on developers
We
to
do,
kind
but-
of,
and we do that, but usually it's typically if they take money from the city, they haven't asked us for anything yet.
What about the,
Is
Then
it,
we can.
is it still Buchler?
Oh, I have no idea.
You don't know, okay.
but
what
just
about
to
the
be,
police station site? What's happening, anything happening with that?
but when you have something like that is, whether it's a designated building or not, but an historic building and a site, or, you could say that the city has contributed a lot because over the years, the city has probably dealt with NIPSCO and has a good relationship with them, and suddenly
We
this.
control bulk, size, and design, and materials, but we do not want to say, I don't think we should have a say over what somebody wants to build. I mean, that's just, I think it's overstepping from a planning standpoint, I mean, in my opinion. If we had.
Well, I think it is something to always kind of work against, but to just press people to
Yeah, I mean,
try and push something else
do we
in.
want a one-story building there? Probably not. I mean, you probably want to get up higher, but we control that area by saying you can only build a two-story building. That's the minimum. You have to build a two-story building there.
But it's good that it's
But I don't-
the mass
I
of
don't know
this.
that we want to get involved in telling people what they can and cannot build. I don't know, that to me just seems a little bit far out there, but I know other cities do, but unfortunately our city is, what's the word we use, rebirth, like kind of on the verge of, like, everybody wants to be here, you know, they want to build. So
Well, that's why it's so
in the
critical.
future, it might demand that, but as of right now, we have no plans to do that because, I don't know, it could be.
So the city doesn't have any kind of plan at all, Skylar, for what
We're not-
could
we do
come
not.
into the old police station lot?
We do own
there-
that one, yeah.
Yeah,
because
there we definitely do, because
Absolutely.
the city owns that
We
land.
own it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's much different than
That's much different.
what they're talking about. where it's
Well,
Well, that's
private.
what, yeah, we
Yeah.
were.
Okay.
Yeah, when we own something, we control it. We control what the standard is. Then we can control it. And a lot of deals are that way in cities. That's how you get them, but we don't want to control everything. Like, we shouldn't control everything.
Well, I've just seen where the
Private
planning
markets.
department really does kind of press a little bit and just say, you know, why don't you try and bring us more plans?
We have.
We'd like to see it
we can do
taller
that.
rather and not so fat, or, you know, kind of.
We do control it from a standard, but not, we don't want to like tell people what they can. We want to let them have some free choice over what they choose. We have a material palette and it has to have push pulls every so often and up downs, and as long as they meet that standard, that's kind of where we leave it at. Can't use EFS. Can't have an EFS building. So
How is our meeting coming?
That's whenever we come up for air.
Mhm.
I've got the longest drive home, unless you're going back to Pennsylvania. And you better not, because we need you here.
So half an hour.
Okay.
40
Okay.
minutes, yeah.
That's not too bad.
Not too bad.
Yeah,
Okay.
how is our meeting coming?
So, 3 quick things I want to go over, and that is one of them. The de-designation workshop is scheduled for September 16th, so that'll happen before we meet here again. So please have that on your radar. Skylar's
Now,
got us a
where is
room.
that?
Here?
Here.
In what room did you tell me? I don't remember what room you
It's in
said.
the EOC room.
Downstairs?
So,
And the time is?
6 o'clock, your time?
September 16th.
I know we have people coming from LaPorte, I know we have people coming from Elkhart. I haven't talked to Brad to see who, those are pretty much the people I'm drawing in, but I am reaching out to South Bend and New Carlisle as well. I just haven't heard back from them yet. So definitely some people coming, so I'd like to have as many of you here as we can. That would be good.
I stuck mine somewhere.
Second thing is just so many COAs this time, so many COAs. And I know we were in transition, definitely staff-wise, so that's part of it. But a recurring theme that I hear, because I do usually call all these people just to confirm details. And I don't know if they're telling me the truth or not. Sometimes you say things, you know, just to get yourself off the hook. But a couple things I'm curious about is the process they go through when they file a COA application. Are the applicants notified of the meeting?
They should be.
Okay.
I assumed they were. I do
Time and
not know.
again, I hear them say, well, I never knew there was a meeting. You know, I'll call them and say, well, I understand what you're asking for, but I can't approve that, so you need to come
Yeah.
and make your case.
But that's odd that we had people here that knew.
Yeah, so some do and some don't. So
Some
I guess,
just are probably telling you that.
They
Because it's
probably
easier
are.
to tell you that and put the blame on you.
of course.
Well,
So
we'll get the
just something
process
to be
nailed
sure
down
that's
for sure.
good. And then another question they have that I didn't know the answer to is after this meeting, what kind of information goes out to the owner? Do they get a
I
letter?
believe they get notified, as long as they have an application, they get notified.
Either way.
Yeah,
So
like
like
they-
this one that got
Some
denied.
people may not ever come in and get their application.
Okay,
I mean, they may have approved it and never come in, but we do call with any, if we have a stack of applications, they get calls.
they get calls.
So the
Okay,
denial, she'll know.
okay.
Okay.
That's
They
what
still
I,
have to get a permit.
right.
And
But
that's
they'll
part
at
of
least get some notification whether it was approved or
Yeah,
denied.
they sit in a
Okay,
basket until they come in and get it, and they get called periodically.
okay. That's good, because they'll ask me that.
Is it Sue that issues the COA, or is it, does Sheila? No, I'm saying, like when they come in though, for the actual paperwork, who do they talk to? When
Sue, and they'll talk to Lily.
Okay.
Okay,
So,
very good.
Once she learns what to.
Yeah,
so
not
Sheila,
everything on the first day.
they're not just handed they're not just handed a paper, okay, all
They go over the projects with them.
Okay,
right, okay.
that's good. That just helps me to know, if they're messing with me or what. Or how to answer that question about whether they'll find out what happens if they don't make it. Okay, and lastly, I talked to the lady from NICD a while ago, and I kind of came in on the back side of that because that whole project, double tracking, was proposed before I came here, so I'm just kind of getting up to speed on that, but her concern was whether they needed individual COAs, and I said, yes, you do. For each and every property you want a demo. And she said, how soon until you're ready for them? And I said, well, you probably should get started before too long, because we don't want to have 30 COAs a night, so nobody will show up. But just something to have on your radar that they want to get started on that process of running those demo COAs.
And that just
before you
opens
guys.
another whole can of worms,
Yep.
because if you look at that church, the Christian church, oh my gosh, almost every window is broken out of it now, or boarded up, or the board's been kicked out. I don't even know if they're buying that property, but this is just me. Property owners holding out now and not taking care of their properties just so that NICD can go buy it. I don't know, but it's kind of sad.
The roof, I don't know how good that roof is, because I've seen tarps on it, and
Oh, and they've brought it, they've been on there so long. Yeah. But anyway, that's not our job.
Do you need anything from us, Deb, for that meeting? Or?
I don't think, well, maybe some coffee. How about that?
Okay, so we're just gonna.
Could you do that? No. I'm not a coffee maker.
You can do that. Now, is that notice going to go out? It's open to the public or no?
We'll have to
It's
be-
not.
Yeah, it'll have to be notified to the public.
Okay, 'cause it is.
It's a public meeting.
So we need to do that.
Should we invite
Um,
Tom, or
Forget what the noticing, didn't I send you the note, did I send you the noticing requirements? It's
I feel
basically
like
like
you
any other
did. Yes,
meeting.
you did. I know
Yeah,
you
I
did.
can't remember what it
I've
is.
slept a couple times
But
since then.
if we put it out like a week in advance, I think we should be okay.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
public
usually the week
notice.
before.
It doesn't need to be advertised. We don't want to encourage homeowners to
No,
de-designate.
but should we invite,
Which some people
and I know your days are long and all that, but like Sue is instrumental because she's gonna be doing,
Mhm.
I mean, should
And you
your
can do
office
that.
be
I mean, we'll get an invitation. but
invited, you know what I'm saying?
I may just let Lily go to that one. I know how to de-designate. I'm not interested in
It would be
de-designation.
nice to have a representative from the building, I mean,
Mhm.
I think,
Yeah.
so they would just simply know of this, but,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
speaking as a public person rather than part of the board now, I'd just like to tell everybody, on this Thursday, it'll be our 54th wedding anniversary.
Wow, congratulations.
That's great.
Next to do it.
Do I have a motion to?
I make a motion.
Thank you.
All right,
All right, Lily.
and usually we don't set this one.